I think what we've built in the community where we're helping and we're aspiring to, to create stronger and better and more educated dog owners who are making better choices for their pets. And I think that's really inspired us to keep going when, as you said, there have been times where, it have been dark times, of course, but we've seen recessions, we've seen wars, we've seen pandemics, and dog owners are here to stay.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. 20-Minute Leaders is a proud supporter of Make-A-Wish Israel and Tech to Peace, and is in proud collaboration with Secret Chord Ventures, J Ventures, Riverside FM, Fusion VC, Birthright Excel, J Impact, Leap, Google for Startups, and Hippo, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to another episode of 20-Minute Leaders. My next guest is talking from London, and he is a co-founder of Dogiz. Well, it's about dogs. Meet Danny Djanogly, the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Dogiz. Danny was born and raised in London before making aliyah when he was 18, serving as a lone soldier in the IDF. He studied government and politics at the IDC, where he adopted his dog and best friend Mufassa. This app is talking about the relationship between pet owners and pets, not just for how to take care of them in the day-to-day with the logistics, but how do we make more significant impact on our understanding of what's happening with them health-wise. Welcome, Danny. You're dealing with one of my favorite worlds, animals, pet care, dog care, something that, so many people, today have dogs who probably have better statistics than I do. And is such an important, part of our lifestyle of how do we deal with this? How do we manage this? Not trivial at all. Before we started recording, we touched on a few of those subjects. But tell me a little bit about yourself, Danny. How do you find yourself becoming a co-founder in a startup that's all about dogs?
Excellent question. I suppose it kind of already began originally I was kind of born and raised in London. I moved to Israel when I was 18, made aliyah, serving kind of as a lone soldier in Kfir. I then studied at IDC in Herzliya. And it was there where I adopted Mufassa. I can show you a little bit. We can say hello to him. He's had it all before, so you have to forgive if he's sleeping, and he's a little bit unwell at the moment, recovering, which is why he's got his little hat on. But yeah, I adopted my dog whilst I was at university. And it was there kind of where I met my co-founder, Alon. In the startup class, we were both I studied government and politics. He studied economics. We both very quickly realized that economists and politicians we probably wouldn't be. And then kind of we started, came up with the idea. And then kind of when I left uni, I kind of was, I suppose like many students, kind of a little bit lost, wasn't really sure, what to do. Applied for a few jobs. Turned out I was totally unemployable. So I had to start my own company. But I think really the real truth of the inspiration was my dog, Mufassa, which I think I joke that, it's 10 years ago now when I adopted him, that today it was the single best decision I made ever was adopting my dog. And yeah, I think he just kind of became the inspiration. It very much became a personal journey and a personal problem. And I suppose as I went from uni and juggling lectures and part-time jobs and girlfriends and with my co-founder as well at the time, his wife, and studying and work and having big dogs and small apartments. We started off more as tackling kind of on the professional pet care side of things. So dog walking, daycare, boarding. And we both kind of had bad experiences of, relying on the neighbor or the granny who said she'd come in, or a friend who lets you down. And it always kind of just felt at the end of the day, it was always the dog who was suffering. And so that's why we started off originally more as we wanted to create an answer for professional pet care, to really help people, find the best service for their best friend. And I think it's as you touched upon, we've seen now our generation, I think it's been happening over the last 10, 15, 20 years, what they're calling the humanization of pets. And it's the way that you and I look at our pets in a very different way to our parents or grandparents' generation. Whereas maybe 20 years ago, you had a dog and he slept in the garage and you gave him your leftovers or you gave him the cheap, shitty food that you got in the supermarket. Nowadays, we're seeing that really people's dogs are becoming beloved members of their family. I think now pet ownership, especially in millennials, is becoming one of the biggest groups of pet owners. I believe it's coming close to 40% of dog owners are millennials, especially now new owners. And the numbers will blow your mind of new adoption that came over COVID. And that's something we'll touch upon shortly, kind of how COVID has affected this market. But I think that's really, as you said, there's such a strong emotional connection and attachment, which kind of only really pet parents, understand. And that's why I asked straight away at the beginning, are you a dog owner? Because it just always, the language even I found even in the past with investors, I wish on LinkedIn, if there was a way to filter investors by dog owners, it would make my life a lot easier. And yeah, that's kind of really, my dog was how I got started. And then it's just been a roller coaster ride ever since. Yeah.
I love it. Take me to COVID and what's happened with COVID. I remember all the headlines about how, it's impossible to adopt dogs because everybody was looking to bring in dogs. But what was COVID like for pet owners and for, the pet industry as a whole?
So I think what's really interesting is if you look at the statistics and numbers of the pet space in general, average pet ownership is growing. The market is growing at a ridiculous rate, and the average spend of pet owners is increasing year on year. We saw in 2008 when, with the recession, we saw, a study showing that people would rather take cuts on, getting less takeaways, but to keep their dogs on premium dog food. And, that was really the beginning where they said maybe, pets is kind of recession proof. Then of course, the pandemic came and all these questions of, is this industry also pandemic proof? I think ironically, the pandemic was great for the industry in the fact that the amount of new pet owners that came as a result of the pandemic. I believe in the UK, it's around 3.2 million new homes took on pets. In the US, some schemes saying 30% of dog owners took on another dog. Dog shelters, as you said, were kind of more emptied. And I think it also made a lot of the big brands realize the importance of moving online. And I think traditionally this industry has been kind of very much a brick and mortar. You went to your local pet shop and that was the guy you bought your food from. And that was kind of really it. Whereas now we've seen, obviously, with lockdowns and closures, of how everything's moving online. And I think that's why technology is this has been a huge catalyst for not just more dog owners, but I think the need for technology to keep up with a lot of new dog owners who don't have a clue what they're doing, even older dog owners who might not necessarily know what they're doing. That, I think it's a general problem is the lack of understanding and education within dog owners. And from a personal point of view, obviously our business we were a dog walking business, and we were flying. We were doing hundreds of bookings a day. Took over the whole of the Israeli market. We'd moved to London. Everything was going amazing. And then the whole premise of our business was, you're at the office, your dog's at home, let us take care of your dog. And obviously that came crashing down with lockdowns and people working from home. And so I would definitely say Alon and I were guilty of the first few months of saying, so I'm sure like everyone else, this will be over in a couple of weeks. It'll be fine, and you see your numbers kind of plummeting, 10%, 20%, 40%, 60% down, 80% down. You start thinking,
wow,
shit, like how long is this, going to carry on for? And I think that was a really interesting kind of time for Alon and I think personally also as entrepreneurs. I think sometimes when things are going amazingly well, and, and Alon always gives us, when you're running at 200 miles an hour, sometimes it's kind of hard to look left and right because you're putting out fires, you're working on growth, so much is going on. And then all of a sudden you're kind of hit by this, quiet time where, nothing's happening, for everyone's at home, lockdowns, what is there to do? And, we were facing some really tough choices. We had to go to our board and, we cut costs where we could. And we tried to preserve as much as we could. And, of course, we had a few people who are, we had a lot of cases of people who actually had COVID that we walked their dogs for them. And, there were small things that we managed to keep our base. So our numbers dropped by around 80%. And so it was a huge hit. And we were kind of faced with that reality of either we close down and we go home, then we call it a day, or we go back to the drawing board. And I think Alan and I, by nature, we're stubborn bastards. And, Alan as well has got background that, he was originally a made aliyah from Kazakhstan as a young boy in 91. He then served in the Navy SEALs and the Shepherd Schlosssley for 6 years. So, we're neither of us are I would say natural quitters. And so, there's often the paradigm is that how much is stubbornness and stupidity and bravery, how often are they a good thing or a bad thing? And we kind of were faced with the choice of, either we close down or we go back to the drawing board. And always along the way, I had a vision of a much more holistic platform to give an offering to not just, the 15 to 20% of dog owners who use dog walkers, but to build something that would be for all dog owners. And that's when we kind of spoke with our community, with our dog owners, with partners, with our walkers. And that's kind of how we came up with the whole idea of the Dogiz 2.0, which is a lot more focused on, the health and wellness of dogs and helping educate dog owners to make better decisions about their dog's health. Whereas in the past, we were a lot more of an operational company. We needed dog walkers, and now we've kind of shifted and focused to the technology side of things. And Alan and I kind of made a decision that we wanted to make sure that we came out of COVID in an even stronger position than we came into COVID. And we came into COVID flying, January, February, our Q1 forecast, we'd already smashed our Q1 forecast before COVID even hit. But then, March the 10th or March 15th, whatever it was,
wow,
just the shit hit the fan, as they say. And so it was a tough few months. Definitely, some, interesting times. But I think ironically, COVID was the best thing that happened for our business. And short term, obviously, it wasn't great. But I think, we were lucky also to have investors who believed in us. And we had partners and brands that we were working with who loved the idea of the new product. It was built kind of as a direct result of speaking to our customers, what do you want? And we did focus groups, and we had a lot more time on our hand. And it was really a blessing in disguise. And I think now, as we kind of come, I don't even know if we're out of COVID. I don't know. Now I feel like there's this other new silent wave that's coming up. Everyone has COVID, but no one's talking about it. We had COVID, and then we had the Ukraine crisis. So I was like, okay, has Vladimir Putin, has he beaten COVID? And then now we're like, is it back? Is it not? Kind of, no one's renounced the heat wave, so no one's talking about it. But it's, I think this world in general is waiting for disruption. I think us pet owners are motivated by a huge emotional connection and bond with our dog owners. And that's really how we decided to kind of come up with this new platform, was as a direct result of COVID, but also as part of a thinking of learning our market for being in the industry for quite a few years. It really enabled us to get a unique insight to how this market works and who are the players there. And although it kind of feels like we started a new startup, it's built on, some years. I used to have hair before I started this, this is, I
love it. What is Dogiz 2.0? How are you bringing sort of lifestyle education, pet care beyond just the services portion of what Dogiz was? What is sort of the big aha moments you've had there?
Sure. So really, as I said, we wanted to put a much larger focus on health and wellness and technology. And I think kind of some of the other trends we were seeing in the human world that I think COVID was great for bridging the gaps, and telemedicine and everything moving online, and Zoom calls with, you're seeing a doctor online. And we wanted to make something that would make it easier for dog owners to access their information. So how it works kind of the new platform is dog owners, you register, you fill in a quiz so we can kind of get to know your dog. We then kind of set you fun challenges to improve the health and wellness or the activity of your dog. So you can kind of, track your walks, and we kind of give you achievements. And for every achievement that you earn Dogiz coins, which you can then use as discounts on our services or on our partners' products. So the kind of something that we took as well from the world, we're seeing this huge trend of gamification. And we've seen that across a lot of different, sectors, especially human health, whether it be Strava, of people competing how far they run, or different types of businesses, or, Klalit, and trying to push people to be more active and healthy. We wanted to do the same with dog owners and reward them with discounts on premium products and services that on activities that they're already doing. You already walk your dog. Why not do it through Dogiz and then earn as you go and kind of give you that cash back? And the idea was to motivate you and to reward you for being a better dog owner or someone in terms of more active. Because I think what really ultimately underlines everything is that the foundation is healthy dogs are happy dogs, and active dogs are healthier dogs. So that's kind of how we started. And then the main kind of features that we developed was, the big one was Dr. Poop. So it's the first ever visual machine learning.
Dr. Poop.
I know, it's a great one. You can take a picture of your dog's poop and instantly be able to find out if it's healthy or not. And this again,
that's huge.
With our vets, speaking with our vet partners, and we're going to be adding online vet services as well. But when we were kind of speaking with our vets, and I was having a meeting with him, and he just kept on getting these WhatsApp pictures. He's like, he's just ready to relieve how many pictures of shit I get every week. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, who is sending you, pictures of their dog's poop? And it turns out it's not just neurotic Jewish mothers, but all pet owners, have this worry, is everything okay if something doesn't look right? And we then kind of, built a whole study of, spoke with 10 different vets, took 100 samples of poo to try and see if there was any, validation and cohesion between the vets' results. We then have now building this machine learning technology that in the last 3 weeks since we launched, we've now analyzed nearly 3,500 dog food pictures, of which we've kind of given them 3 grades. So around 67% of them are everything looks great, everything looks fine. Around 21% are average. When we say, kind of we need a couple more samples or something, something that, we just need a few more samples for a better judgment. And 11% have come out with something looks wrong. You need to speak to the vet. And I think what's been so interesting, like I say, from a personal point of view, and we touched upon it, but about with my dog who's unfortunately, just been recently diagnosed with cancer. Ironically, the reason why I went to the vet was because I noticed that he was just being a bit constipated and he was just struggling to poo. And his poo was looking fine, but he was just really struggling. And it was when I went to the vet and, then they start checking, and then that's when they found he had this tumor on his anal sac. And that was what was blocking him. And it was all to do with, the fact that he wasn't pooing normally. And I think that kind of also really showed me. And even now, over the last 3,000 pictures, over 300 people, have had problems. Now, again, not all of them are drastic, serious problems. But it's about creating that awareness and making tools that are easier for dog owners to understand their dog's health, and make it easier and accessible to get quick answers when they need them.
I love it. So Danny, first of all, very, very cool. Very cool journey, a very inspiring journey, in the trenches for 8 years, making an impact, but really, really pushing the limits on entrepreneurship and ups and downs and navigating through, and not just COVID, but different consumer behaviors shifting and figuring out how to enter new markets and new segments. It's a very, very cool story. If you had to distill it down for you, why you're doing what you're doing, sort of why are you doing what you're doing? Why is that really?
So, I think it's a combination. I think first of all, obviously, there's the personal benefits of I want creating a product, which I think, I've as a founder, I've met incredible founders who made brilliant products, who solve amazing problems for other people. And it's amazing. And I take my hat off. I just found also I wanted something from a personal problem to kind of see how we could help. And I think as we've kind of gone along and we've built this community, I think there's just an intrinsic bond between dog owners. There's an intrinsic trust, and there's a community out there. Just to give you an example of the amount of recommendations I've had even from myself, or even to other people that you've met, from a stranger in a dog park who tells you, "Oh, I see your dog's limping. Have you tried these supplements? I tried them on my dog. They were amazing." Now, I don't even know this guy from Adam, but I trust him more than my vet or, an online Google search, because there is an intrinsic bond between us all. And it's very hard to explain to people who don't have pets. And I've been told by people who have children that there's a similar bond when you're at the playground and your kid's crying and you look at each other and you kind of give that nod, but I think we've kind of, I'm amazingly lucky to have an incredible business partner who's become one of my closest friends. And I think, as you mentioned, it's a roller coaster ride with many ups and downs, and having someone who not just balances you out on the work side of things, where, things that he's better at, things I'm better at, and learning to work with each other. But having actually, his wife jokes I'm his second wife, the amount we speak with each other. And, so having someone like that makes things easier. And I think what we've built in the community, we're helping and we're aspiring to, to create stronger and better and more educated dog owners who are making better choices for their pets. I think that's really inspired us to keep going when, as you said, there have been times where, it have been dark times, of course, but we've seen recessions, we've seen wars, we've seen pandemics, and dog owners are here to stay. And I think now it's all about, the technology that's right for disrupting this market on a serious level. And I'm really excited now. This new product and this year is giving us new, blood of energy and a new determination. Where, as you said, sometimes in startups, if you're not moving forward, you're staying still, you're finished. That's just how it is. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And if you're moving backwards in this game, unfortunately, it never ends well. And so we've been lucky, as our business model has changed. And I think we've always enjoyed that challenge. And I think part of, in these tough times as an entrepreneur, is looking when things aren't working well. It's very easy when things are going well, but it's taking those tough decisions when things aren't going well and not being so arrogant to be like, "Oh, the first time I got it right," and be able to morph and understand your market and move with your market. That I think really defines what makes entrepreneurs successful, is to try and fail. And if you're going to fail fast and, and learn quickly. And so I think it's been a challenge. Sometimes I look, and I get jealous of your friends who leave the office at 5 p.m. and they don't give a shit what happens. Whereas, but as with time, I think I'm super grateful that I've had the support. We've had incredible investors who've really believed in us. As I said, I couldn't have done that. My business partner, Alan, is, incredible. And we've got an amazing team now that have been, inspire us every day. And pretty much everyone's a dog owner. It's not a prerequisite to work at our company, but it's it's kind of always just worked out that way.
I love it.
That's kind of really, what inspires us is to, help our four-legged friends in every way we can.
Amazing journey, Danny. Thank you for that. And thank you for these 20 minutes. I look forward to continuing to follow Dogiz's journey and your own journey. So thank you very much for the time and the inspiration. Best of luck. And a quick recovery for your dog.
Thank you.
And thank you again for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.